If you open the Gospel of Matthew and look at the genealogy of Jesus, you'll see a list of men, patriarchs, kings, conquerors. But every now and then, the list stops for a woman. Usually, these women shouldn't be there. They are the scandals, the outsiders, the ones the pious would rather forget. At the very top of that list is Tamar. Most people tell her story as a footnote, a strange tale of a widow and a crossroads. But they're wrong. This isn't a story about a scandal. It's a story about the strike of divine justice. It's about what happens when the men meant to protect the covenant turn it into a weapon of oppression, and how God himself steps in to break their hands. Welcome back. Today, we aren't just reading Genesis 38. We are stepping into the dust, the blood, and the high-stakes chess match of a woman who outplayed a patriarch. We're going into the psychology and the history that your Sunday schools skipped. If you're ready for the raw truth, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You're going to want to see how this ends. To understand Tamar, you have to understand the man who failed her, Judah. Judah was the fourth son of Jacob. He was supposed to be a pillar of the family, but something shifted in him. He left his brothers. He moved down, spiritually and geographically, to Adullam. He befriended a Canaanite named Hira and married a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua. This was the first crack in the foundation. In the ancient world, who you associated with was who you became. Judah was blending in. He was losing the set-apart nature of his family. He raised 3 sons in this environment, Onan, and Shelah. These boys weren't raised with the fear of God. They were raised with the arrogance of wealth and the influence of a culture that prioritized power over personhood. When the firstborn, came of age, Judah picked a wife for him. Her name was Tamar. We don't know her tribe, but we know her trial. She enters a household where the father is compromised and the son is wicked. That's the word the Bible uses, Ra. In Hebrew, it doesn't just mean he made mistakes. It implies a moral depravity that is destructive to others. Now, let's talk about the character of God for a second. We often hear God is patient and slow to anger, but there is a line. When wickedness becomes a predatory force, when a man uses his position to crush those under him, God stops being a spectator and becomes a judge. The text says, "But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death." No long illness, no battlefield casualty, just gone. God performed a surgical removal. He saw what Tamar was enduring behind closed doors, and he closed the book on The house of Judah was on notice. Judah is rattled. He doesn't ask, "What did my son do to offend God?" He asks, "How do I keep the family line going?" He invokes the Levirate law. In this culture, a woman's survival depended on having a son. If her husband died childless, the brother-in-law was legally and morally obligated to marry her. The first son born of that union wouldn't belong to the new husband. He would carry the name and inheritance of the dead brother. This was a safety net for women. It was the ancient version of social security and life insurance. Enter Onan. Onan knew the law. He knew he had to sleep with Tamar. But Onan was a calculator. He realized that if Tamar had a son, that son would get the firstborn inheritance of But if she didn't have a son, that inheritance would eventually fall to Onan. He decided to exploit the system. He took the intimacy, but he spilled his seed on the ground to ensure there would be no child. Think about the psychological cruelty here. For months, or even years, Tamar thinks she is being given a chance at a future, while Onan is intentionally sabotaging her behind her back. He was stealing her time, her fertility, and her hope. But Onan forgot that God isn't just a God of big sins, like murder. He is the God of the vulnerable. He saw the exploitation, and for the second time, the lightning of justice struck. Onan's life was forfeited. Now the household is in a panic. 2 sons dead, One woman left. Judah doesn't see the hand of God. He sees a cursed woman. He thinks Tamar is the problem. He tells her, "Remain a widow in your father's house till Shelah, my son, grows up." It sounds like a promise. It sounds like he's saying, "Just wait a little longer. I'll take care of you." But the Bible tells us Judah's internal monologue, lest he also die like his brothers. Judah had no intention of ever giving Shelah to her. He was sentencing her to a living death. In her father's house, she couldn't remarry because she was legally betrothed to Shelah. But Shelah was never coming. She was trapped in a legal vacuum, abandoned, forgotten. But Judah made a massive mistake. He thought Tamar would just fade away. He didn't realize that when you strip a woman of everything, you don't just make her desperate, you make her dangerous. Justice was about to stop being a lightning bolt from heaven and start being a woman at the crossroads. Years. Let that sink in. We read a verse and move on, but Tamar lived it. 1 year became 3. 3 became 7. In the ancient world, a woman's prime was her currency. Every grey hair was a loss of value in that society. Tamar sat in her father's house as a living widow, a woman who is married to a ghost. Because she was technically reserved for Shelah, she couldn't move on. She couldn't find another husband. She was a prisoner of Judah's lie. Imagine the whispers in her father's village. There goes the woman who kills husbands. The jinx of Adullam. Tamar wasn't just losing her time, she was losing her humanity. This is the God of justice angle again. Does God see the woman sitting in the corner of a silent house while her youth is stolen by a man's fear? The answer is yes. But sometimes, justice waits for the victim to find their voice. Then, the status quo breaks. Judah's wife dies. This is a pivotal moment in the script. After the time of mourning, Judah decides to head to Timnah for the sheep shearing festival. Don't think of this as a simple farm chore. Sheep shearing was the Wall Street event of the ancient world. It was where the year's profits were realized. It was a time of massive wealth, heavy drinking, and, quite frankly, moral laxity. Tamar hears of this, and she looks at Shelah, now a fully grown man standing right next to his father, and she realizes the truth. Judah was never going to keep his word. He was never going to give her justice. He was waiting for her to die or disappear. In that moment, the victim Tamar died. The strategist Tamar was born. This is the scene that defines the video. Tamar decides to stage a sting operation. She knows Judah's character. She knows that a man who has just come out of mourning and into the high-energy atmosphere of a festival is looking for a release. She isn't doing this out of lust. She is doing this because, under the Levirate law, Judah, as the head of the house, is actually the ultimate backup to provide an heir if his sons fail. She isn't breaking the law. She is forcing the head of the law to fulfill his duty, even if he doesn't know he's doing it. This is where the story gets controversial. If you're seeing the brilliance in Tamar's move, drop a comment below. Does the end justify the means when you're fighting for your life? Hit that like button. It helps this story reach more people who need to see this kind of grit. She chooses her spot perfectly. Enaim. The name means the opening of the eyes. The irony is biting. Judah thinks his eyes are open to a new opportunity, but he is actually more blind than he has ever been. He sees a woman with her face covered. He assumes she is a shrine prostitute, someone associated with the pagan rituals of the land. Judah, the son of Jacob, the man of the covenant, doesn't hesitate. He negotiates. The goat. He offers a kid from the flock. The pledge. Tamar asks for a guarantee. She doesn't ask for jewelry. She asks for the signet, the cord, and the staff. To a modern audience, this sounds like asking for a wallet. But it was so much more. The signet was his signature. The cord was his DNA, his unique pattern. The staff was his office, his authority as a prince of his tribe. By handing these over, Judah was literally putting his life and his name in her hands. He thought he was paying for a moment of pleasure. In reality, he was signing over the deeds to his future. Tamar goes home. She puts the widow's clothes back on. She disappears back into the ghost role. But everything has changed. She is no longer waiting for Judah to give her a future. She has taken it. 3 months. That's how long the secret stayed hidden. Tamar is back in her widow's weeds, but her body is betraying her. The pregnancy becomes visible. In a world of strict honor, this wasn't just a scandal, it was a capital offense. Word reaches Judah. Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Watch Judah's reaction. There is no prayer, there is no inquiry. There is only a terrifying, self-righteous speed. Judah, the man who had just months ago visited a prostitute at a crossroads, is the first to demand the maximum penalty. Bring her out, he bellows, and let her be burned. Why was Judah so quick to kill her? Maybe it was guilt. Maybe he thought if Tamar was dead, the curse on his family would finally be buried. He was willing to burn a woman alive to protect a reputation he had already stained himself. This is the dark side of religious authority, when it loses its heart. This is the cinematic peak of our story. Tamar is being dragged toward the flames. The wood is piled high. The crowd wants blood. But look at Tamar. She isn't crying. She isn't begging for her life. She is a woman who has spent months preparing for this exact moment. She waits until she is face to face with the man who abandoned her. She doesn't scream, "It was you!" She doesn't point a finger. Instead, she sends a small bundle to Judah. A messenger walks up and hands the patriarch 3 items. The world stops spinning. If you've stuck with us this far, you're seeing the ultimate gotcha moment in the Bible. Before the fire is lit, do us a favor. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button. We're about to see how a single woman brought a giant to his knees. Her voice is calm, cutting through the crackle of the fire. By the man to whom these belong, I am with child. Please examine them. Whose are these? In that moment, the power dynamic flips. Judah isn't the judge anymore. He is the defendant. The items he gave away in a moment of weakness have become the evidence of his own hypocrisy. The fire that was meant to consume Tamar now illuminates Judah's shame. He realizes that while he was trying to protect his lineage by hiding Tamar away, she was the only one actually saving it. Judah says the most important words of his life. She is more righteous than I. This is the justice we've been waiting for. It wasn't just about killing the wicked sons, it was about breaking the heart of the father until he could see his own sin. Judah stops the execution. He acknowledges his failure. He admits that he broke his promise to Sheila. Tamar is no longer a jinx. She is the hero. She is restored. She is protected. Why did God let this happen? Why is this gritty, R-rated story in the middle of the Holy Book? Because the line of the Messiah isn't a line of perfect people. It's a line of survivors. Tamar gave birth to twins, Perez and Zerah. Perez would become the ancestor of King David. Tamar didn't just survive a broken system, she forced it to become better. She is the reason we call it the Lion of the tribe of Judah, because she taught the lion how to be just. When life puts you in a corner, and when the people meant to protect you fail you, remember Tamar. God isn't just the God of the palace, He's the God of the crossroads. He sees the receipts, He knows the truth, and He will move heaven and earth to ensure that justice and you are seen. Thanks for watching this journey into the House of Shadows. If this story changed how you see the Bible, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.